Hello everybody, welcome to the Wonder Year podcast, episode 11 with me, Paddy Raff. Our guest this week is me. It's actually you. You're asking the questions. This episode is a different one. It's the last in the series of the Wonder Year podcast. There will be a series 2. We'll be picking up again in September. But we just thought for the last one, I think it's actually the 12th episode, but officially it's the 11th because my one was 0. But anyway, I just wanted to let you guys ask the questions because I keep getting questions from people on Instagram and on Facebook and Twitter where people are asking me questions about the podcast and about me, and I've already recorded it. It was great to get through your questions. Hopefully you enjoy listening to me getting through them. The podcast, as ever, sponsored by Victoria Square. Thanks guys for continuing to support the podcast. Check out their gift card. You might hear a wee jingling going on every now and again, and you might wonder what it is. Am I being haunted by the ghost Jacob Marley? Or no, it's because I'm basically sitting in a bar, if you're watching the podcast and on YouTube, and of different bottles that were sitting rattling the whole way through it. Like this one, the infamous Bucky bottle. This is Bucky, Buckie, you might be able to see. It's a fake one that was made for the TV show. I think it was series 1, the Paddy Raff show. Nigel song, yeah, Blame It on the Bucky. Whenever I was given this, I assumed that there was actual real Buckfast in it, and they just switched out the labels because you can't have the official label on BBC. That was a terrible assumption to make on my part, because during the pandemic then, what I think was the second lockdown, after series 1, I was running out of drink, and my wife said, she's coming home, we're going to do one of the Zoom quizzes with the family, and do you need any drink? And I was like, oh no, it's alright, I've got a bottle of Buckfast in the shed and a couple of beers in the fridge. So I had the beers first, 3 or 4 beers in, running out of drink. But I'll go up and get the Bucky, and I lifted it and realised that it's Ribena inside it. I think I shed a tear that night, if I'm honest with you. Dark days. But yeah, Jesus Christ, there goes. It was a bottle of gin. Anyway, enjoy the rest of the podcast. This is a Q&A episode with me.
The Wonder Year. The Wonder Year.
Yeah, let's go for it. Before I get started, I'm going to be on tour as well. There's, I think, about half the venues have sold out. So get a ticket for any venues that you can. Really looking forward to it. Hopefully see you there on tour. Myself and Nigel. Load of questions about Nigel. Everybody kind of asks me questions about Nigel as if he's a real person, and I'm half tempted to just continue the podcast as if he is somebody that's completely real. Don't think it's going to work. So here's the first page. This was I don't even know what order these have been printed out in. But anyway, the first one that I've caught here is Jane McCammon. Jane McCammon says Paddy versus Barra. And she actually tagged Barra. I can see that's it's cheeky. Paddy versus Barra. She's trying to start beef here. Are they the same person or not? We need to know. Thanks, Jane. I'm going to put that one under my new pet peeve, which is baldism, where everybody thinks all bald guys look the same. And I thought, no, bald guys don't all look the same. And then I've remembered what happened whenever I actually turned bald. So basically, I started going bald in like my mid to late 20s. And I'd always said to my wife, right, because like she's asking here, right, are we the same person? I'll explain. You know, when you're in Asda, right, we were out shopping, and do you know the way they have CCTV in like the medicine aisle, you know, where you get like toothpaste and Sudocreme and razors and stuff like that, and you know they have like a CCTV thing, right? So it involves that screen, because I'd been saying to my wife when I was going bald, look, do you see if the back of my head starts to look really bad, you'll tell me to shave it, won't you? Right? And she's like, yeah, of course. And I was like telling you, because you can't see the back of your head all the time, and I was starting to go there. I was going a wee bit at the sides, and I was like, but if it starts to look ridiculous, like a comb over job, just tell me, and I'll shave it, because I don't want to, because it's that in between thing. I'd rather either have a full head of hair or not. That in between thing did my head in, literally. So there, I've been telling her, and every now and again I would catch somebody out, be looking out and about, and I'd say, here, see your fella over there, like in a bar or something. Like, am I as bad as him? Looking at who I would consider to have really, sort of crap, scraggly comb over hair. You're like, just get rid of it. And anytime I used to say that, am I as bad as him? My wife would be like, no, you're nowhere near as bad as that. And I was in Asda, and I caught sight of the CCTV screen, and I saw this guy in it, and he had the worst kind of comb over thing going on at the back of his head. And I called my wife over. I says, am I as bad as this fella? and as she stepped in, she stepped in the screen as well, and that's when my heart sunk and I went, oh yeah, that's me. As a genuine story, I was standing looking at the back of my own head in Asda, and I thought this was some other poor fucker with crap hair, and I was like, yeah, that he has to shave that, doesn't he? And then she stepped in and went, Jesus Christ, that's me. Luckily I was in the right aisle to do it. Grabbed three packet Bics, and that was me. So that was mid-20s. There was another question coming up, I can't remember who answered it. Somebody did ask the question, would I rather be bald or go back to having hair? I'm in that thing with, I know I'm not going to spend that money to go to Turkey and get the kind of minion hair that you get. Can't be arsed with all that. I genuinely am happier bald now. I would rather it didn't grow at all, because I hate when it starts growing around the sides. I have to shave it like every other day. Hate that. So yeah, I would rather stay bald. I'd rather actually get the rest of my hair lasered off, because I hate having to keep shaving it. Yeah, let me see. Next question. Another one from Facebook will go down. Joseph Stevens asks, love the show. Thanks very much. It needs to be on the main BBC for everyone to enjoy. Is that a possibility, man? Cheers, Joseph Stevens. The fiver is on its way to you. We'll send this to the BBC commissioners. Yeah, the TV show, the Paddy Raff show, so it goes out on BBC Northern Ireland, and people maybe sometimes don't understand the way that works in terms of it's broadcast on our TV screens, and then it's available though on iPlayer throughout the rest of the UK. So I do have some people message me who've just kind of found it on iPlayer, who have no connection to here, and I love hearing that, because it kind of shows you that it's travelling. But yeah, in terms of like whether or not we'll end up putting it on, UK wide, if we get another series and do that, then maybe, I'd love to do that. That's kind of the aim. You do always want to kind of keep pushing on, and it's a far bigger audience. I don't know how many million people more there are in the UK, but basically, yeah, it would be great. So yeah, Joseph, if I could, and if we can do that for the next series, that would be great. It would be a case though of, there's certain jokes that I write, that I come up with, and I know, okay, that'll work on like BBC Northern Ireland, we'll get that. But if it was going to be going on to like sort of the rest of the UK, like broadcast live like that, I would maybe have to go, oh, hold on, they'll not get that. You know what I mean? Like if the punchline is Lurgan, people from the rest of the UK aren't going to get that, So not that that's many punchlines, but you know what I mean? Like you've a bit of a local flavour for your comedy here. It's a bit like choosing a stand-up set. All comedians would talk about it whenever you travel. There's certain things you just take out of your set, because you go, they're not going to get that whole bit about, something that's really specific. Like the whole Tato beef, between the two Tatos or whatever. Although Dairy Girls has helped with that, because they featured Tato, and that's now the world's going to know. Thanks for that, Joseph. We'll do another Facebook one, then we'll hit some Instagram ones. Pineapple on pizzas, discuss. Genuinely today, my kids had pineapple on pizza, and I took a wee bite, and it was alright. I wasn't into it when I was a kid, and that's because I ate a pizza when I was a kid, and it turned out it was off. The cheese was off on it, and it had pineapple on it, and that put me off pineapple forever. Is that in Fray Bentos pies? Anybody remember Fray Bentos pies? No? I'm asking the question as if I just assumed Riggsy was in the room. Fray Bentos pies. A pie in a tin. Just what was going on with that? We had Fray Bentos steak and kidney pie in the house one time, and my mum made it for me and my sister, and we had to eat it. She was like, forces, you're going to eat that? You're going to, because like we were like, she thought we were cram wolf, didn't want it, and we ate it, and then we were sick, and it turned out it was off. My ma felt awful, and social services did agree that it was neglect. Yeah, we'll do one more from, it was a quick one, pineapple on pizza. Scroll over, say, okay, Audrey Slater has asked, which is your favourite character from your TV shows? Two ways to answer this. The favourite one just to write for and sort of, be is Nigel. Like, because, yeah, that's kind of the one that everybody, flocks to most. That's definitely the funny. And I like playing Granny Raff as well, because again, whenever you're kind of on set and you kind of try and stay in character as much as possible, I enjoy doing that for some reason. I just really enjoy and have it in that character. But my favourite to film, like whenever we're sort of shooting the Paddy Raff show, definitely the favourite to film is Father Pat. It's because it's so easy. because I don't have to put on really any costume, and just like a pair of glasses, and also the script. I put the script on the pulpit because you're that busy shooting things, and I be involved in every element of the show, like choosing props and choosing extras and locations and rewriting and everything. So I don't get to just shut off and learn the scripts. So quite often what's happening is literally the night before I'm going to shoot something. Maybe it shows when I'm doing my acting, who knows. But yeah, I will be literally learning a lot of the scripts the night before, and obviously I wrote them, but like when you're then learning them and you're acting with some people like Dan Gordon, like a stalwart of the scene. He's been going years and he's brilliant, and I'm like, Jesus, I've got a scene with Dan Gordon tomorrow, and I get nervous or something that I friggin' wrote, and I'm like, I better learn this. Because yeah, I wouldn't be the one to turn up and like not learn it, but basically when I know I've got Father Pat, although I've learnt it, you've got it. So that Bible that I have has hastily Pritt-sticked in script, and also he speaks kind of slow as well, so that helps me. I'm literally reading it as it's going through. Maybe I shouldn't tell you any of that because BBC will not recommission us now. Marty G. Oh yeah, Marty G. Any more TV coming up? Series 3 of your sketch show. Thanks. Okay, yeah. So yeah and no, in that I have stuff that we're developing for UK wide, a project for UK wide TV. It's a pilot episode or something involving a character of mine. I'll maybe not say anymore. So there's a potential that we could end up filming that quite soon. We're going to do a table read of the script, which means you kind of get the script together, get a load of the actors together to kind of read it at a table to kind of hear it out. So I've got that on the go, and also because of the tour, it's kind of meant that series 3, drop a bombshell, guys. Anybody that's interested in in the sketch show, because I do get a lot of questions. People ask me when if we're getting a series 3 and is it when it would be. There won't be a Christmas special this year, as far as I know, because timing wise, so literally what I have to do is if I'm going to do a series and that's going to be broadcast with a Christmas special and then a few episodes in the new year, I have to sort of sit down in July and write for pretty much 3 months, July, August, September, to write all the sketches, because it's like, I think it's about 20 odd sketches per episode that make it to TV. But out of those 22 that made it to TV or whatever were probably shot, there was probably like 25 there that could have, and you have to sort of choose which ones. So you multiply that out, you're like 120 odd, 100 and whatever sketches. So 3 months to write, and then 2 months to kind of shoot and do all your pickups and all that stuff, and then another month to edit. So it's effectively a 6-month job. So the first 2 series, luckily, and the pilot as well, just before it, were all filmed in lockdown, which meant I had nothing else on. You couldn't go touring. You couldn't, you could take your eye off the ball. That was what you were doing, was the TV show. And yeah, so basically because I'm doing loads of touring and, I've got other TV stuff that's in development, I just can't do the TV show in the same pattern. So I kind of can't do the Christmas special. Something might pop up and I might end up doing something on TV for Christmas, but I can't see it happening with the Christmas special. And as far as the third series goes, it's it's great to have the support of BBC Northern Ireland. They're very happy for us to come back and do a third series. But they understand that we've just got so much going on, so I can't clone myself, unfortunately, to be able to do it. So, but yeah, basically one of the reasons why series 3 can't happen at the minute is because there's potentially other TV stuff as well. So, hopefully some of that pays off and you'll get to see that. There's Susie Snaps. How do I get an audition for season 2? You'd have to go back in a time machine because season 2's already happened, but season 3 maybe. She says Nigel needs a Prosecco bestie. I'm not sure who'd drink with Prosecco. He's bully all the way, champagne. No, people have asked that before. If anybody's interested in being on the show, it's a bit of a weird one because of COVID. I'm not sure how it works. We couldn't have really extras and stuff in series 1 or 2. It had to be kind of like literally my family and even the crew, like people can't, like the cameraman and stuff would be like, right, the director would stand and man the camera for him so that he could do a wee bit walking by or shout a line or whatever. So I think everybody on the crew is featured in the show at one point or another. I think the biggest laugh that anybody has got in any of the series is the guy that did sound, Dave, on series 1 when Nigel gets his COVID test. And your man, there was a guy that pranked him or whatever, and at the end of it, he runs away and he shouts "you." And I used to play it in the SSE when I was getting changed out of Nigel and into the Father Pat stuff. And every night, it just got the biggest laughs. Like a guy who isn't even an actor, who was the sound guy, got the biggest laugh out of everything. What is your guilty pleasure when it comes to music? Do you like a bit of Venga Boys? That's from Emma Donnelly. Gotta love a bit of Venga Boys. My you've probably heard, if you've listened to this podcast, you know my music taste is pretty crap. I mean, I'm into a lot of sort of rock and metal stuff, but yeah, I'm into a lot of 90s pop. Yeah, Go West. but there were an album. I had the Go West album, a band from the 80s. My ma asked me, she was like, my sister was getting to take that. She's like, what do you want? And I was like, and I'd heard their song, King of Wishful Thinking, belter tune, on the radio, and I was like, Go West, and everybody in my house bust out laughing, and I got slagged for liking Go West for many years after. More Instagram ones from G Belsey. Are you actually a BT9er? I'm gonna have to set the record straight on this one. I'm not from BT9. I take it as a compliment that, you know, playing Nigel so well, people just assume that, you know, I'm from the Malone, but no. I'm from West Belfast, still living here, no plans to leave. Yeah, definitely from BT11 West Belfast. Yeah, not BT9. I've been introduced on stage a load of times as well, like whenever I would be out doing gigs and stuff, and even corporates, and they'd be like, please welcome all the way from BT9, it's Paddy Raff, and like a wee part of me dies. I have to go and you know, pay homage to the Red Barn, or go get a chippy from Scoffs or Raffles. Raffles aren't even anything to do with me. Everybody always asks me, are you anything to do with Raffles? Nothing to do with them. Should do a wee sort of tie-in, wee collab, get a few free pasty suppers. Then we've got Lindsay Olive on Instagram. Proudest moment of your career so far? Probably, well, in terms of stand-up, it would have to be the SSE, doing the gigs at the SSE. But the proudest one of all of them would have been, I think it was the second night that we got to do. So for anybody who doesn't know the story, it's very long and boring. Strap in, I'm going to tell you it all. No, basically, the first night of the SSE gigs was literally the last thing in the SSE before they closed it for COVID. So it was actually touch and go. It's mad to think back to that time, like that it was touch and go. You know that, I think it was the Stereophonics. Why I was saying that wrong? Stereophonics played a gig in Wales the night after mine, and everything was worse over there at the time, and they were getting all sorts of heat for it because of how close to, you know, COVID, but you know, they were allowed to go ahead and nothing you could do. So mine was just before that, and yeah, I think the week later we went into full lockdown. So yeah, that was mad. So the first night of the SSE, that was sort of my proudest moment then, because that was just under 2 years from I'd started doing stand-up. March 2018 is when I started doing stand-up, because somebody else has asked the question I saw earlier, you know, like how did I get into stand-up or when? So yeah, March 2018, and then by March 2020 doing the SSE. So yeah, that was amazing. But then obviously with the pandemic, it kind of stopped the other shows that were, you know, because there was more nights in there, and pushed them back and whatever. So basically, once the pandemic had kind of eased and we got, well, it's not gone, is it? But we got back in October 2021. And so I think the first night back was, and this would be the proudest moment, was whenever my kids came out and joined me on stage at the end. Should have got them to do a wee 20-minute set, take the heat off me. But yeah, they came out at the end when the show was over, and you know, everybody was cheering, clapping away, and they came running out. Now I knew it was going to happen. You know, I knew, I'd said to my wife when we were chatting about it beforehand, she's like, would it be great to get them out on stage and let them experience it? And that's why I did it. I was like, I was like, I just want them to be able to see that, because basically they were going to get babysat the rest of the time. We were partying after the rest, and we're like, no, with this one, we'll let them come down to it. So that was their wee night to come down and see Daddy at work. So yeah, that was pretty amazing. And I'd forgotten that it was going to happen, you see, because it's so busy. I'm in the zone trying to. I knew you would set it up beforehand. I says, bring them down at the very end. You'll know when to do it. And but I've totally forgot. I totally forgot that it was going to happen because we're just in the zone with everything else. And then whenever I turned around, I saw that the curtain open and the two of them running out. And I've got a class picture of it as well. I think it's like my profile picture and a few things of them, and they were loving it. But there's a wee bit of footage. I must actually put it up sometime of my son running out, and he kind of like does this wee skip on the way out. And I don't know what he was planning to do, but it looked like he had something in his head planned that he was going to like run and do something like. Maybe try and steal the limelight, and I think he got overwhelmed by by the audience and chickened out of it in the way. There's this wee sort of half skip, and it's funny with your kids, you can kind of see them do something that you know what I mean, like a wee behaviour thing that you go, I used to do that, or you recognise yourself as a kid, and it was that thing of, hey, I'm going to do something, and then he kind of look because he saw that the audience, like it was like 3,500 people there all cheering, and the lights were up as well, so it was class, like. So yeah, that was my proudest moment, I think. But in terms of then like sort of TV and stuff, just to get doing the Paddy Raff show, the sketch show, was amazing. And yeah, just to win an award or two for that. Oh, there they are. Handily, yeah, that was pretty amazing. So yeah, they're my proudest moments in my career so far. Montgomery Rintoul. What's Mark, the piano player, like in real life? So Mark, for anybody who doesn't know, is Jarlath, Nigel's sidekick, and he basically plays on stage with me whenever I'm doing the Nigel stuff, and he has been my best mate since I think 2003. I started working in a call centre, and yeah, me and him best mates from then. Just a eccentric, very talented pianist, but very posh. And he was the first kind of posh person that I'd ever that was that posh that I'd ever really kind of met and chatted to. Yeah, he's such an amazing piano player. I always wanted to do something with him in the future, whether it was I played in a wedding band and stuff before. I was in doing stand-up, and I always kind of wanted to do something that incorporated him, because he's just an amazing player and a brilliant friend to me. So and it was funny that the first time that I got to do anything properly with him, he came into the band once or twice just to kind of stand in for people, but yeah, the first kind of venture we went on was with Nigel, me and Nigel, and him as Jarlath, and he's great crack. He's brilliant crack, and I don't know if this girl knows him or whatever, but yeah, maybe that place, because he's really good fun. He basically is, again, I'm kind of jumping because I know somebody else asked the question as well, about who was Nigel, or who was the inspiration for Nigel, and people do ask that quite a lot on Instagram or whatever if I do the Q&A things, and the inspiration is kind of Mark, inadvertently. What happened was, and so the origins of Nigel were, I'd only started doing stand-up, and at the same time as doing stand-up, I was doing like using Snapchat filters mainly to do like wee sketches and stuff on my Facebook page. And this day, a Snapchat filter came out, and it was a guy it would put a moustache on you, those kind of clear aviator glasses, and the kind of shaggy brown hair. And I saw somebody else in my family, taking a picture with it. And I was like, oh, that must be a new one. So I went on and stuck it on. And I actually happened to be at home on my own. I was doing gigs with the wedding band, and it was a heat wave. And they were banning you from using your hose pipe. And I'd filled up a paddling pool out the back, just a wee small one now. And it was just as the hose pipe ban had come in. And my wife was on the phone to me, and I told her I was lying out the back, having a beer in a paddle pool. She's like, there's a fucking hosepipe ban, what if somebody sees that? And I was like, nobody's going to see it. So then whenever I put the filter on, I just had this idea in my head. As soon as I put it on, I started doing like a posh voice, and I was like, I can see this guy. It was like an instant thing. I was like, there was something about it. I was like, I was looking at myself, obviously, with the moustache and the wig on. I was like, I can see this guy touting on people for, like a posh guy touting on people for filling up a paddling pool or whatever. So I just started kind of rambling, and I made, within a few minutes, that sketch of the hosepipe band, Nigel phoning up and touting on somebody for filling up their paddling pool. So that was dead on. I put that up, and I think I was the first one. It definitely was the first one I did, and it went viral, and then I think I kind of followed that up, because you do that, whenever you're doing stuff online. If you have a hit with a certain character, you go, well, I'll maybe do something else with that person or with that character. And he didn't have a name or anything, but sure enough, I did maybe one other video, and then I didn't do it for a wee while, and people started asking in the comments, where was that? You got to do that posh guy again. And genuinely, if it wasn't for those people saying that, I probably would never have revisited it. It's mad how these things come about and how these characters, start. So yeah, I did another one and whatever, and it became a thing. And it was after maybe about 5 or 6, my wife was like, you're going to have to give this character a name. People are saying, what do you call this guy and all? And Nigel, I think it was actually her that come up with it, just kind of seemed to fit as the name. So that was that. So basically what happened was, which I didn't realise, was that I was kind of, because Mark was the only real posh person that I had any contact with, subconsciously this Nigel character and the voice was an impression of Mark. And Mark's not really on social media, or he certainly wasn't back then. And I remember after like the character was getting bigger and bigger and bigger, I went up for a drink in his house one night, and I came in through the door, chatting away and standing having a few beers, and he turned around at one point. He was like, "Paddy, can I ask you something?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Where's this going?" Because he never gets serious. I'm like, "What's this?" He's like, "Are you like doing videos like of as me?" And I genuinely couldn't compute what he was saying. I was like, "What?" He's like, "Are you doing videos like online of as me?" And I was like, "Oh shit." I was like, "Is this posh character?" He's like, "Yeah." People have been saying them, and people who knew the connection, because some people didn't know it was me, and then even if they did, some of them didn't know we were connected, and they'd say, they were like, "Do you know your fellow Paddy?" Like, and I stuck one on, and I was like, "Oh my god, I didn't realize that this was just basically an impression of you." And Mark has a tendency to hit you a dig when you're least expecting it, because he's so polite and posh, and it can hurt. And he hit me such a dig in the shoulder. But yeah, he was, it was all good. Like, he wasn't annoyed. But yeah, and I had to apologize. Like, I genuinely didn't even realize I was doing an impression of you. But it was great that he loved it, and he thought it was good crack. He loved the videos, loves the humor. Obviously he gets it. But the difference between Mark and Nigel is that Mark is very, very intelligent and well read, and knows a lot, and Nigel is sort of not. He's nowhere near as intelligent. It's kind of like my intelligence with his impression. If you drop me into a posh world, that's who Nigel is. So there you go. Another Facebook one. What already said? Look, that one. Cormac on Facebook says, if there was one place you'd like to do a gig but haven't, where would it be? Oh, good question. Well, I've really only gigged. I've done loads of gigs across the north, and only one down in Dublin. Jesus. And I've done a bit, yeah. So I think I would have to go abroad somewhere, probably somewhere in America. I like the idea of being able to go, because I've had messages from people, like since the word go, which is what I love about people who were from here, is that when they're living abroad somewhere, and they see somebody starting to do well, or see something they like, they're like, "Come on over here and do a gig." And the amount of people have said that, "Come on over and do a gig in Canberra," and they're like, is it just because you live in Canberra and you want to see one of my shows, or is there anybody else that would go to this gig? Because if I go to the whole way to Canberra and it's just you, I'll be a wee bit annoyed. But no, there's there's usually like sort of expat communities in these places. So Australia's another one. I would love if I could just do it tomorrow, just to go and get it done. But there's all the visa shit and all that. That's more America. But yeah, I'd probably go and do like somewhere in America, like New York, or That would be great. And just for it to be like, again, those kind of expat communities, people, they love it when they see something from here I think it would just be an easy gig. Not that you'd be phoning it in, just kind of going like, I haven't prepared anything, I'm just going to stand up here. But yeah, I think I would like to do that, because I'm sure it'd be really good crack. And I have had a few offers to the people, and thanks to the ones that keep offering me to come out, ones that run bars and things like that. As soon as I can get the visas and stuff sorted, I'm out of here. See his kids, I can actually see the kids down in the house there. Christ, get my head shard away to America. They'd probably turn up. There's Joanne Cinnamon said, saw you at the Darkness gig in the Limelight. That was a few months ago. Would you ever wear a Justin catsuit? I think Nigel could rock one. Holy shit, that would be a sight. I can only do it as a character, but yeah, as Nigel. It's mad, yeah. You'll do anything on if you write. And I've written scripts. Like I wrote one for the series 2 there, where I was at a wedding. And I wrote in, and I was having so much fun writing it. I was like, and then this happens, and this happens. And I'd realised then, once it had been greenlit and it was part of the script, and everybody was like, yeah, we're going to film it. Only the day before did I realise I've written into this that I'm running about in a bathrobe and a pair of trunks. I'm like, I'm going to have to do that. I mean, like, I was like, I would have went to the gym months ago. But I didn't even clock that I'm going to have to do this. You know? I'm like, and it's just because it was the first TV thing I'd written. This is that I didn't realise that if you write that you're going to do this and you're going to play the character, you're going to have to actually do that. So I didn't realise until literally the night before, when I was sorting out through my trunks, which trunks are going to be the least embarrassing for me to wear, because I have to run about half naked in a hotel. Yeah, but I had to do it in the end anyway. So I have to remember that one from now on. And I have actually remembered I've written a lot of scenes, a lot of sex scenes in it, for myself in future. That's terrible. Nobody wanted to be on the show then. We'll have trouble getting actors. Joanna Durr, did you work in the Dunn's food hall or clothes? I worked in Dunn's clothes and homewares. Because there's another question I seen here on the Instagram. Somebody said previous jobs, and that was, is it Helen D? Yep. Previous jobs before stand-up. What were my previous jobs? So that ties into the Dunn's one. So my first job working in Dunn stores, that was the one in the Park Centre. I don't think either of them are open now. I think both of them are closed. I think the food one closed first, and then the other side of the Park Centre was the closed one. And it was great crack. That was my first job. First proper job. I'd done wee bits and pieces before, but yeah, that was great, working in the homewares department in the kind of that side of it, and I loved it. And I remember being hungover going into work I was probably about 17. Shouldn't have been doing that, obviously, but sure. Completely hungover. I got into work and it was dead early. Nobody was in yet, so you'd be in, the shutters are just up, and hardly anybody's in the place. And I was asked to go out and put duvets out. And I was putting the duvets out, and I looked, and they'd put in a wee installation, like they would have a wee miniature kind of bedroom in a corner that would show you the stuff on display, so you can go, like a nice valance that goes well with that lampshade. But they had a wee bed in it for the first time, and I remember looking at the bed and I was like, I could hop into this, nobody's going to come near me for ages, because there's only one manager on or something. And it was way over the other side. I'm in this corner, and it was all wasn't well spaced out. It was dead cramped. I was like, I'm gonna hop into this. Sure. And I hopped in. I was really it was short, and I had to kind of curl my legs up. I actually get in under the blankets just for a wee second. This is fun. I think part of my mind knew what was going to happen. Part of my mind was going, yep, just keep doing that. Keep kidding yourself that this is all for a joke. Because I put my head down the pillow and closed my eyes. I'll just close my eyes for a wee minute. And I did close my eyes, and what felt like for a wee minute, but whenever I woke up, the shop was very busy, and there was a very concerned customer standing over me, because I had the blankets pulled up and they wouldn't have known that I worked there, so they maybe thought that I was just some sort of vagrant that was living in the in the Park Centre in the bed. And I think they woke me up, and they didn't tout on me, and that's what I love about the West. They didn't tell my manager. Most people would have went straight away and got the manager, but I think I got away with that one. That was my first job. Second job, then I worked in call centres as a trainer. And I think that's where, I was on Andrew Ryan's podcast, Cork in the North, a wee while ago there. And he was asking, about getting on stage and doing stand-up. And, for me, it kind of went really quick from doing, an open mic to starting to do my own shows. And then, kind of rumbling along like that. And I think it was because my first two main sort of career jobs were working in a call center as a trainer, standing up and talking to people. And the so yeah, that kind of ticked that box. And then basically playing in a wedding band for a decade was another one, because we play guitar on stage quite a bit. So those two things I'd already done before ever getting up on stage to do stand-up, and my early sort of stand-up was more guitar and parody stuff. So those were handy jobs to be able to get into, to be able to do for so long, because then they kind of give me the foundations to do stand-up. And then another job, so I was a carer for my sister as special needs. I talk about it in my stand-up a wee bit as well, so some of you, if you've come to my stand-up, I always talk about things that I've experienced, I find it easier to make light of that. not of disability, of course, but you can joke about it in a way that, I talk about it from my experience. And I think that's something about people think you can't talk about disability, and you can't, that isn't right, I don't feel, because what that does is it kind of makes it invisible. And I talk about it from my perspective, and looking after and growing up with a sister with special needs and the different things. So yeah, I feel like it's something that if it comes from the right place, people will listen to stories and jokes not about disability but about the experience of that. So those jobs, I think a combination of those three jobs, being a carer, stand up, playing in a wedding band and doing training in call centers, when you kind of put all those three things together, that's kind of what my stand-up set is based on. And of course, obviously being a dad now as well is an unpaid job. But yeah, let's see what else we got here. Is the T-bar, is the story about your granny being a Protestant true? Yeah. So again, this is something from stand-up, a story I tell. My granny was very, very, very staunch Catholic, devout, like really, it kind of was like sort of, she was a Catholic ultra. It turned out basically that she'd been a Protestant until she was in her early 20s. And it really, as a kid, I was like really intrigued by this, couldn't believe it. And it was really interesting to talk to her about it, actually, because in later life, and this is something I was talking to a few people about, like, is that it seems that people who are, when they're getting quite old and they kind of realise that maybe they don't have much time left, they kind of start telling you things that they would never have told you before. And certainly my granny was like that, because she was very religious. She wouldn't have been sort of cold or distant, she was very, caring and loving, but she would never have revealed a lot of, would never talked about sex or anything like that. Like, why would your granny? But what I'm saying is, whenever my granny was sort of quite ill towards the last few months of her life, she started, whenever I would be visiting her in hospital, she started opening up about what it was like to have, been a Protestant, and what it was like to have grown up in the Shankill, and telling us all about that, and telling us, just about the process and why she had to sort of leave the Shankill. And it was purely because at that time you couldn't go out with a member of the other religion. So it was a choice, and it was usually, I think anyway, it was usually the woman would go to whatever religion the man was, that way. So yeah, that was her. She was in her early 20s, and she then moved from the Shankill to the Falls. And so she started telling us all about that, and the conversion side of things. This is something I'm going to definitely delve into at some stage, and whether I write about it or whatever. But converting to being a Catholic, I like I said, as a kid, when my ma told me your mummy or your granny used to be a Protestant and she converted to being a Catholic, I imagined some sort of like software upgrade. That was the way I thought of it, because my mummy didn't tell me any more about it. She just kind of said that and walked off, and my mind was completely blown. I thought it was like, you're running on Windows 1690, Sheila. When you wake up, you're going to be running on Windows 1916. But it was just, to me, it was, and I never really got talking to her about it until, like I say, the last few months. And so there's a lot more. I'll not go into it too much because I could go on for ages about it. But yeah, the whole conversion thing was weird. It was weird. Certain group of nuns were the only ones that could do the conversion, a bit like Apple geniuses. Do you know what I mean? They were the Apple geniuses of the time, and a certain order of nuns, and they used to get her in. I think it like took a good few weeks or months, where she would have to go to them quite often and confess things and talk about things, and basically didn't sound too, above board. But I'll get into that maybe at some other stage if anybody wants to hear any more about that. Probably not. But yeah, that was so. Yeah, so she was, and it lends itself to stand up. The kind of conversations that we were having and the things that you kind of realised about my granny. And I think that's what I'm saying. I think that made her more of a devout Catholic. That she just wasn't sectarian or anything. It was just that this was her new, and that's what she said to me one time. I remember one time she kind of shouted at us because we only went to mass when we were kids, and our parents only brought us to mass, because she would have been raging if you didn't go to mass, like raging. And I remember one time we didn't go, and I think we bluffed it. We were all on the same page, right? When we go in, we all say we went to mass. We're all dressed as if we'd been to mass. I think I messed it up. I think I maybe over-egged it. You shouldn't give a 7-year-old child that much responsibility going in, like that, the weight of that kind of lie. I think I kind of went, oh, that was what a mass, huh? Oof. Mass, it's getting longer these days, mass, aren't it? Mass. And whatever happened, my granny realised, and I remember her saying, which is strange, I didn't realise that this backstory at the time. She was like, "Yous don't know how lucky yous are to be born into the religion. You don't know what I went through to get into this religion." And now that I'd heard the stories and how hard it was, I can understand. But I just remember what a weird thing to say. You don't know how lucky you are to have been born a Catholic. I had to go through so much, whoa. But yeah, great crack. I'll get into that more at some stage. Let me see, what else have we got here? Did you go to college? I did. What's college? University? Is that the same thing? I went to tech. I did a 2-year course in tech when I left school, because I didn't want to go to university, because I was not very academic at all. I was a nightmare in school, because I just wasn't academic. But I always seemed to be able to, even though I did crap in homeworks, I did shit in mock exams and all that stuff. And then on the day, whenever it mattered, whenever it counted, I seemed to be able to pull it out of the bag. And by pull it out of the bag, I mean pull out my scientific calculator with notes, cheat notes in it. But yeah, I always seem to be able to ace it in exams. Not ace it, scrape by, but certainly not fail miserably the way certain teachers thought I might have. Tommy Gilchrist, what has been your most successful sketch so far in terms of likes and shares, etc.? I thought it was one that was a hotel one. So there's one from so it was me and the wife going to check into a hotel, and she has, and this comes from a true story, this actually happened, where me and my wife were going to check in the hotel, and when the girl says, "Oh, give us a wee second, I'll go and get my pen," she went away, and my wife turned around and said to me there and then, she went, "Here, by the way, I've told these since this is our wedding anniversary, so just play along if she says anything." I was like, what do you mean? She's like, "It's just because you get free upgrades and stuff." And I get nervous in those scenarios, again, a bit like whenever, we've been told to lie to my granny that we'd been to mass. I was like, I wasn't prepared for this. And the girl came back out and she was asking wee questions, and I don't know if she was probing or whatever, but I just wasn't ready for this scenario. So then that gave me the idea for the sketch. I think I was doing stand-up at the time, and anyway, that was the sketch that was kind of the biggest from the TV show anyway. And there's millions of views, I don't know how many million. And it's strange how those things go, because you can see on Facebook where your videos have been liked and shared most and commented, and it's when it goes to England, when I see it now it's in those videos, England's 70% of the likes and views on that, which is mad. And then you get Northern Ireland being the next one, and then Scotland, Dublin seems to be a region it isolates for some reason, and then America and whatever else. So it's interesting that's whenever you get this sort of mega kind of numbers, that's where they're going, then they kind of go beyond. So I actually was presenting an award ceremony for the Northern Ireland Travel Awards. Brilliant crack. And I was doing a bit of stand-up at it, and before it I was chatting to a few people who were going to be at the awards, and there were English ones, and they were like they were chatting away to me, and then they were like, and who do you work for? And I was like, oh, I'm going to be hosting. They're like, oh, are you the comedian? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, right, okay. And I was like, you've no idea who I am, I don't blame you. And they're like, no, I know your face. And I was like, here we go again, pick a bald person. Are you Patrick Stewart? But they were like, no, I definitely know your face. I can't remember the accent, whatever it was. And then I was like, oh, maybe you've seen one of my videos or something. And the girl was like, oh, hold on. She says, are you that guy from the one about, she says, you were checking at the hotel? And I was like, yeah. She says, oh my God, we got sent that on WhatsApp. I was like, yes, I'm WhatsApp viral. Because that's when you know you've really made it, whenever it's got that forwarded many times above a video and it's one of yours. So that was how I knew that one had really got legs, because it's just like, we love that. Turned out, funny enough, we were hosting it, the awards in the exact same place. So we were standing across me. That was the reception. So you can believe it. So there you go. That was a bit random, but it's nice to feel that that's the way they're kind of going. So that wasn't the biggest, actually. I thought that was the biggest, yes, but the biggest actually was the one where I did a story at the start of the pandemic. Where, do you remember everybody was sending real rambling voice notes about rumours and stuff? And I remember I didn't even script it. I just parked up and I just started rambling into the phone, and it took it as many different places as I could, just rambling it. Look, I know somebody, this is straight from the horse's mouth. A friend of mine works in the courts, and he was saying that he overheard his mate in the toilet talking on the phone to his wife, whose dad lives in New York, and he was driving a taxi. And the fella in the back of the taxi was chatting to his boyfriend, and his boyfriend was saying that his flatmate fills the vending machines in the White House, and he heard straight from the horse's mouth from Donald Trump's top advisor that Donald Trump's top advisor was saying that his friend, who is street sweeper in Belfast, and that's what I love about it, was like, you take it round the houses, go to America, you think you're getting to the top, we're in the White House now, what's your contact in the White House? Donald Trump's top aide says, and then it goes back to Belfast, and then it ends up something really stupid, like he says that he heard somebody in the council, when he was out sweeping the streets, he heard one of them saying that his friend heard that the city council are going to won't be able to impose the £250 dog fouling fines come Monday. So come Monday, folks, you can let your dog shed anywhere. And I made it, and I remember sent it to my wife, and she just watched 5 seconds and went, is this meant to be funny? And I was like, I think it is funny. And luckily I just kind of overruled her, and I went ahead with it, and I think it is the biggest, and it's something like 10 million views and 30,000 likes or something like that. But yeah, they'd be the kind of two biggest ones. I'll get another question here for you. Jeez, I can't see. I've looked into the light too much there. A wee shout out one. Can you give a wee shout out to Oakwood School and Assessment Unit, please? Yes, I can. Amazing staff and children. Check out our videos on Facebook. Yep, that was from Francis Hutchins. Those Oakwood was that my younger sister's, I think it was her second school. Brilliant school. Yeah, great to hear you guys are still going. Fair play to you. I'll get you one more question from each. I think I'll do an Instagram one maybe. Loving your podcast. Who would be your number one guest if they were still alive? Wow, who would it be? It would have to be, I would say, Billy Connolly. Jesus, definitely Billy Connolly. I was lucky enough to go and see him in the Waterfront. But Jesus, I don't know how long ago that would have been. Would have been 10 years ago. Yeah, so about 10 years ago, went to see Billy Connolly, and it was an absolute, it was like watching the greatest ever. And yeah, hopefully he's doing all right, because I know he's not well. So yeah, Billy Connolly would be an amazing guest. You could just sit and listen to his stories every single day, 24/7. That's it. I'm going to wrap it up, guys, and say thank you very much for sending in your questions. And the podcast will continue in, let me see, it'll be September. We'll have more guests in, and we'll get back to it with series 2 of the podcast and continue doing it. It's been great crack. I've enjoyed these 12 episodes immensely. It's really good fun, and we're learning and we're changing it as we go along, and hope you guys are enjoying it. It's great to hear people messaging and saying they're enjoying it as well. So all the episodes are there. Go back and check them out if you want, and we'll see you in September. Thanks for listening. Chat to you soon.